Okay,
So, hi, I'm here with Dr. Craig Wright from nChain, and we're going to talk about what's happening with nChain and BitcoinSV lately. So, how are you, Craig?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Nice to be here.
And how's it going with BitcoinSV? I heard that Shadows announced that the release candidate is coming out on the was it September 1st?
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
So that will only be an early release, so that won't be tested or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
That's just so that people can start playing themselves. Now, before we make it a non-alpha release, we will have it properly tested. We will test it for large blocks in all scenarios that we can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that will be 128. So once we've gone through all of that and all the full testing, we'll have code testing done. We have engaged some of the best security code testers available,
Mm-hmm.
ones that actually have experience with blockchain, etc. as well. So that's going to happen. We're not just relying on sort of throwing it out there as open source and saying, please trust us, we don't have bugs. We have a bug bounty set up. We've already offered 100K to pay Corey. So all up, we're going to ensure that this is professionalized.
Cool. And so I heard so far that miners were asking for 128, and that's the number you settled on for this release, or as the hard cap.
Only because we want to sort of make sure that we don't have too many people suddenly panic and think that it's large.
Mm.
The reality is I would prefer to actually have it larger right now. 128 is not terribly big.
Okay, so with the Terra project, or was it also Gigabyte test project? Like, were there any bottlenecks found at some size yet, or like, what is
Oh,
the
there are a lot of problems.
yeah?
The problem is not what people think, it's the code.
Mm.
The protocol doesn't have a problem.
Yeah.
In some of the earlier things with the project, we had iDaemon and looking at eventually releasing a microservices version of all this. You get away from that by having the ability to parallelize code and many other things. But the problem comes down to hardware more than anything else. At the moment, there are lots of little things that need to be removed. Many of those came about in the last few years for, I guess, Core trying to optimize.
Yeah.
There are some terrible, terrible limits in there. Really, what we're looking at is code that has been sort of built to run on people's laptops.
Mm.
And the reality is it isn't anything about laptops. We're talking infrastructure type nodes. We're talking machines that run the base architecture for a future sort of basis of the internet. And people think that that means it has to run on home machines. And that's idiotic. It's just
Yeah. Even on forums long ago, Satoshi wrote data centers, but people
no,
willingly ignored.
no, but he must have been wrong. I know.
Must have forgot to mention the Raspberry Pis, eh? Yeah.
Yes.
Um. So also related to that, so there's some talk that canonical transaction ordering, or lexicological transaction ordering that BU called it, would kind of affect parallelization. Is that one of the concerns, or?
It can in many ways. It actually makes zero conf harder. What people are then are doing is reordering things. So the last transaction, if it has a lower number, can be put first because it's, well, easier to do a search on. Now, this is great if you're running something like Omni. It means that you can have many other coins that are now parallelized faster, allowing you to actually start searching on transactions in your Omni layer quicker. If you're talking about Bitcoin, though, that's a different matter. So what we're looking with CTOR is optimizing for non-Bitcoin token uses under cash, and that's not acceptable to us.
Yeah, do you actually see that as an attack on Bitcoin, per se?
I see it as no different to any of the others, such as Core and Lightning or anything like this. It's we don't like Bitcoin and we're going to change it. Well, there's a simple answer for that. If you don't like Bitcoin, you don't like 10-minute blocks because money isn't secure on zero conf or even one conf, and you need 1-minute blocks, then go to Litecoin.
Yeah, I'm wondering why they don't go to Litecoin, because it already is at 2.5 blocks, but they want to bring this kind of stuff to Bitcoin. I don't understand. I mean, either it's an attack or it's something stupid. They could go somewhere else.
Well, they don't want to start again, so they want to capture some of the market and have the value captured, while at the same time moving away from what Bitcoin is. So it seems like an attack to me.
Yeah. Do you see any other of the suggested changes coming, for example, Bitcoin Unlimited, that could affect Bitcoin at a base layer?
Well, there are so many problems with things like DataSig Verify that people don't think of. Not funny. I mean, the first one is the entire concept is flawed. The idea is that you're going to have permissionless oracles, is what they try and sell it on. And the reality is there's no such thing as a permissionless oracle. An oracle exists in the world. So if it's actually creating something signed in a special format for use in Bitcoin gambling, then that oracle is not sort of unpermissioned. And if you look at the early communications between SN and MH, Mike Hearn was asking about some changes that were recommended because of block height. So this was a time variable similar to CLTV, as terrible as that awful piece of what is. And it was pointed out that all of this could actually be done using nlock time. And it was also later determined and pointed out when people discussed, and it's now in the permissionless oracle section of the Bitcoin wiki, I believe, under oracle contracts, that you can actually have oracles that sign off on things. Now, the idea is they want to have a permissionless oracle, except you don't have a permissionless oracle because the oracle, one, has to get paid, and two, acts in the world. So you're not signing a web page. So the idea is you're signing a web page with sport results under SSL, TLS, etc., but you're not. When you consider oracles out there reporting this now, what they're doing is they're signing the entire content. So there's no I'm signing the result of this particular game type scenario. That requires a permission system. It requires an oracle that actually attests. And it requires that you trust an oracle. Because if you sign once and then the oracle updates, you have an occurrence where different results can end in the chain. So the reality is it's not quite so easy. So if you look at some of the later emails on block time, you start seeing block height between Satoshi and Mike Hearn. You will notice some problems that were discussed when others wanted to do this. Blue, Matt, and Mike, back in 2011, I think it was, Matt Corello, were discussing this with Thamos. And this was before anyone went down the CLTV path and CSV. And basically all came up with, yes, it can be done with nlock time. No, we don't need it. And then, of course, what they realized is that didn't actually give them a path to Lightning Network. So then they went, oh, yes, this is a bad idea, to this is suddenly a good idea because we'll ignore how we said it was a bad idea to actually add state and ignore Satoshi because we know better because we need Lightning. We want Lightning, we can't capture the network otherwise. Now, CLTV starts to become something like that. If you remember the op-eval problem back in the early days after after Gavin had taken over, op-eval was promoted, but it allowed recursion. Now, if we start thinking about op-datasig verify, what is op-datasig verify? Can I ask you, Ray?
I don't know.
So it's validating a signed message, okay,
Mm.
using the same cryptographic primitives as Bitcoin. Now, if you're using the same cryptographic primitives, the same script operations, etc., can you tell me what else uses those primitives?
I don't know.
Well, let's take, for example, we have an input transaction going to an output transaction. What do we do with that generally in Bitcoin?
We like take the hash from the original and then have it like in the second one.
And we sign it?
Yes.
So what we're really doing for the standard Bitcoin pay-to-script hash transaction is we're actually taking a digital signature.
Mm.
So why can't we actually embed a digital signature that links to another digital signature in a payment in DataSig Verify?
So
what's the difference between, say, verifying a digital signature and verifying a digital signature?
What's the difference between verifying a digital signature? Verifying there's no difference.
Exactly. Why can't my data, instead of saying it's from an oracle, if I'm verifying a hash, can that not be a transaction ID?
Yeah, that is a transaction ID.
So why can't my hash actually be signed information in another transaction?
There's no reason why, right?
Yeah, there's no reason why. So you actually have script conditionals linking multiple transactional outputs that you embed into one transaction, linking other possible transaction states, which effectively becomes recursion.
Okay.
And if you want to read up more about where this became a problem, read up op-eval, which I think was
how do you
2011
spell?
EVAL. OP_EVAL.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So this is 2011 May, maybe, if I'm guessing right. I'm probably wrong on my dates, but way back then.
Yeah.
Now, if you have that embedded into something horrible like pay-to-script hash, where the idea was to encapsulate script, how do you even know that you're not linking script into script?
Oh, you don't.
So
it's like looping.
Yeah.
And wreck the protocol.
So I know that many people say that loops will actually be great and we can do all these cool things like crypto shitties. We can have a electronic sandbox that the cat can come shit in, whatever. Except we can do that offline with other types of Oracle and interactions. Now, the problem with doing this thing, this ETH envy bit, this getting a Woody for doing what ETH does, is we get all the problems ETH does.
Yes.
And, well, then we get all the DAO problems, etc. So Bitcoin didn't have state for a reason. It's a predicate. So there are ways of actually simulating state, but in a non-repeatable way. Opdata DSV is a horrible, horrible sort of rehash of many of the other recursive protocols that should never have been there that people have spewed forth over the ages. And no one thinks through this. So it's basically, let's steamroll this like happened with CSV and CLTV, both of which were actually agreed not to be good by Thamos and Blue Map, and then were put in by those people anyway. So
seems very suspicious.
This seems to be what we're doing again. So we have a history that everyone's forgotten saying all this is bad. Problems with recursion that are bad. And then we're going, yeah, we can make a permissionless oracle. Without describing what that is, without describing the use case or anything like this, without actually pointing out the fact that you can do oracles anyway, that their idea of a permissionless oracle is absolute BS. Because someone has to issue this. No one sets up a camera that works outside of reality and films sports games and spits out the results signed in a format that Bitcoin can use independent of reality. Sorry, that doesn't happen. Time to be real.
Yeah.
So we don't just sit there going, this will be great. How about you actually put out a use case, put out tests? You realize the code has never been tested, never been actually evaluated for anything like how do we make sure that we can't form loops in it, which an answer would be taking something completely outside Bitcoin right now and using that as a signature operation. And even then there's problems, but where you can sign a transaction in a linked manner. So even if you have ED DSA to ECDSA type thing, you can still create loops, but I won't even go there. So we just have this idea that we can steamroller past all this and say, oh, it's FUD. Craig doesn't know what he's talking about. It's all FUD. Don't listen to him because we have to get this in.
Yeah, they use that all the
so much. Why?
Yeah.
We're going to have something where we're going to, well, suddenly allow illegal gambling, and I'm sorry, you're not going to. I'm good friends, and I've been involved in the industry. I'm good friends with Kelvin, who spent years fighting when he was a licensed gaming operation.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't unlicensed, free, out there stuff. This is also where there's an idea that we embed this with no other real reason into Bitcoin, go and start waving things, kicking sort of every little hornet bee and other type hive that we can find, and just being problematic.
Yeah.
For the sake of being problematic. What are we solving? Nothing.
Yeah, I heard there was
lots.
Yeah, I heard there was like one assassination market on some other protocol that where all the investors are like also kind of part of the crime per se because they made this assassination market or something on this other coin.
This is some of the weird stuff that used to come up on the cypherpunks list. And the world will be fair because we have an assassination market, and it will be permissionless, except it's not. Now, think about it. At the end of the day, the people who benefit from such a system are the rich, are the powerful. Because I can hire security guards. You've been round to conferences with me. I've got my, not to insult them, I like them, my hired goons.
Yes.
You've seen the big guys hanging out the back. One of them's been SAS, etc. I can pay people to stand there and break other people's legs.
Yeah, one guy came with us to karaoke.
Yes, I know. Yes, I have to put up with my horrible groaning at times too. So, we won't even go there. Burn that camera. Burn it. Burn it.
Hey, it's my fault.
Burn it. Anyway, that's a different issue. But people with money can afford protection. It's people without money, ones who speak up, who have, say, something to say as a whistleblower. They're the ones that assassination markets get rid of. Why would you be a whistleblower if someone who's rich can put out a simple hit on you?
Yeah, and it seems like how the kind of anarchy goes. They all want like private security, private courts, private everything, but then, you know, who's going to benefit from that?
If powerful, it should be me going, this is what we want.
Yeah, but you're not like that.
Exactly. Luckily, I'm not. So these people want total anonymity, which only benefits the rich, powerful, and the government. The government benefits from anonymity. You have corruption when there's anonymity. You have government getting away with doing things with anonymity. When there's pseudonymy and you can track every little government expenditure, that's easy to trace. There's no corruption when there's the sunshine principle.
Yeah, it's powerful for people because they can actually look at what their politicians are doing and then vote another government. Like,
so you'll notice all these people don't want to talk about these things. They talk about censorship, forgetting that one of the rights of private sort of expression is the ability in your own place not to have to talk to someone, not to be drowned out, not to be shouted down.
Yeah, they complain about you blocking people, but it's within your own rights. Yeah.
What they're saying is they have a right to come into my house and argue with me and argue with my friends. They have a right to come there and shout me down. Well, that is actually censorship.
Yeah,
they want to block what I'm saying.
They want to steal your time. They want to use your patents. Like, what else? They want to sit on your couch, or I don't know what they want to do.
They're the ones who are actually out there censoring. They're the ones who are using these techniques.
Yeah, they're trying to censor your rights to, you know, associate with who you want and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see what else did I have on this list. Oh yeah, speaking about oracles again. So I heard that Keyport uses oracles, or how is it doing it?
Keyport is using a simple sort of binary hash at the moment. So some of the enabled script, the opcodes for opmod and things like this enabled them to actually start doing this, and there'll be more very shortly. Once you actually start doing things like left shift, then you can do multiplication on some much larger numbers, and once we fix up some of the problems with the code from nanny stating it from core, you'll be able to do much more.
What is the code that's nanny stating that?
Just the way that they've actually the large number protection around everything. It's so obscure and arcane, it's not funny. Bitcoin used to be simple. There are many people who think that making convex, convoluted, really difficult to follow and audit code means you're a better coder. Actually, it means you should have been fired or crap.
Yeah, it's going to make it difficult for the other coders to come after them. Exactly. So
they like to do the let's all dress as druids and do magic chant. That's not a good coder.
Yeah. And they seem to be afraid of large numbers in general, large blocks, large numbers. Like.
I know.
So okay, what else was
so the Keyport people, though, we're dealing. I mean, we're investing in them, but we don't. We told them not to actually go live on their FIFA Oracle because they're not licensed, and we don't want to see them get in trouble. What we'll help them do is create their software and solutions so that people with licenses can actually release that, and they don't get in trouble, and other people can do what they want.
Yeah, is Calvin looking into using their technology also?
No comment.
Okay. And also about the different token protocols, there was one suggested recently called recursive smelting. Do you know much about that, or can you explain how it works?
I'm not an expert on it, so I won't go into it. It's not what I would call my favorite.
What is your favorite token protocol?
There are actually two coming out that will be out in a matter of weeks. Clemens has one that I like quite a lot. It's nice and simple. And there's another one too from some guys down in Australia, but I'm not going to go into any details quite yet.
Okay, so you can't talk about Clemens one yet either, or?
I'll say I like it, and I like the work Clemens is doing.
Okay. And back to patents. Are there any kind of things you wanted to spell about patents? So basically, the base protocol cannot be patented. I hope everyone understands that
the
part.
Original
the original, like 0.1, like everything from there is not patented at all.
1.0 can never be patented.
Yes.
So all those actual opcode scripts and the functionality in the original version of Bitcoin is put out there. And importantly, to be stable money, it needs to be unowned. So Bitcoin works through competition. eGold and all the other things, CHL, etc., all the digital currencies at the time were all owned by a single sort of central party, and that was really what stopped them. Not the fact that they couldn't be minted or whatever else, but you could actually cut the head off the central party, and that stopped it. With Bitcoin, it's more a Hydra model. You cut off one, and it becomes profitable, so another two pop up.
Mm. And that's why you need like competitive mining pools too. So if one drops dead, then there's another space to be filled and someone else will come in.
So if we take, say, 60% of the miners, so we have a really a situation where 40% will not upgrade. Now, and the mining pool wants to upgrade and have bigger blocks, like we're talking about at the moment. That 60% then decides that they're going to go out there and force the issue, even though the other 40% say it's not competitive for them. Well, what then happens is the 60% now start earning all the blocks. So immediately the profitability goes up. That will probably bring back, say, maybe 20% of the ones of the 40%, half the 40%, who now can, with the extra profit margin, come back into mining, leaving us 80% of the original miners. Say if we have 8 main miners all equal out of 10, we've now got 8 miners, but they earn more. So they earn 5 over 4 of the original profit margin. So basically what happens now is those 8 miners earn 125% of their original profit. When you get a market that is highly profitable, that attracts new entrants. So very quickly, what you find is in this profitable market, miners move back, new miners, who can mine at the increased rate, who have upgraded systems and are still competitive, and the mining profit returns back to a stable equilibrium.
So actually, what happened with like BTC and BCH, like it was actually really bad that we like it became 2 chains, because now we have the profitability equilibrium split over the price ratio of those two. So we get like 1/10 for the hash because it's 1/10 for the price. So if it had stayed together, then could have gone with just, okay, whatever majority miners vote for, then that's the protocol, and you either enter or you don't. So
it's not about changing the protocol, it's about stability. Locked in stone as of 0.1. I mean, this is what people don't get. It's not about experimenting with money. It's about only changing if there's a critical issue. Bitcoin is designed, and this is the problem with the cap, it's difficult to change.
You mean the hard cap, or?
Yeah, the hard cap is a big problem. That's why BTC was such a problem. Removing it is really the goal, because once you have something like that, it becomes difficult to change. Now, that's why soft forks are so insidious. Things like CLTV have managed to creep their way in, allowing Lightning that doesn't really work and is just a way of trying to capture Bitcoin. And the reality of it is, well, it's something that gets snuck in there that no one really votes for.
Yeah.
And so this is why different protocol collisions are good. So SV and ABC, well, they want to make a whole pile of changes, and now they have competition.
Yeah, it's true. I think they added replay protection, but SV doesn't have replay protection. You're just gonna capture whoever is suckers.
We're hunting.
Yes.
There's no split. There's
nowhere to hide.
No split. We're not going to allow it to split. Yes. If they want to break off, they die. They can move to a completely different proof of work algorithm, because we're sticking with SHA. We've got our partnership with CoinGeek and their Squire machines as well, and we're staying with that. And if they want, they can change and become a completely new altcoin, but Bitcoin's staying on SHA-256.
So Squire, are they making new and more efficient miners? This is...
Yes.
Yes.
but no details to give you quite yet.
Okay. Yeah. And about the hard cap or the no cap, when do you think that will be coming in?
Well, November.
November.
Yeah, so there's a meeting next week for all the miners to have a bit of a chat. But the idea is to try and get this moving as quickly as possible. People are sitting there going, 32 is enough. Well, I can download 32 meg blocks on a modem. I'm sorry, but the internet stopped using modems a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember that noise. It was really bad when you pick up the phone and.
Exactly. We are more than 20 years past that state.
Yeah.
It is time to move on.
Yeah, I agree. So like the aim is to hopefully have like no hard limit, but the miners set their own soft limit, like what they're mining. They just set what size they want to mine. So
yeah, and orphans are how Bitcoin's meant to signal. That's what people don't seem to get. After all the FUD and everything like that, if you send a transaction, you don't care. Now, this is the interesting thing. The only people who care about sort of reorgs and whatever else, people doing things like Omni. If you're on Omni, whether that's Tether or Wormhole, then you care a lot about reorgs, because reorgs actually make all your token sort of exchanges basically fall apart. So you then have to wait a lot longer before it can be used, which means you can't really use it for anything other than a gambling or exchange token.
Yeah, I think it was I read Shatter's like recent article, and he was saying that the only zero confirm and like other things are not concerned with orphans and like reorgs, but maybe like only like one confirmation is like kind of effective.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is where it comes down to. The only reason for wanting any of these changes is second layer solutions again. So it's back to the same Blockstream narrative of let's re-alter and redo Bitcoin because we want to do something else. In this case, it's becoming wormhole and token layers, and let's change Bitcoin because we want our token layer to capture Bitcoin.
Yeah, we have to watch out so much for people trying to capture Bitcoin. They just want to, like, they want to destroy it, right? I mean, they could do their own thing if it's so great, but they just want to break up what you're doing. Yeah.
And you don't need to burn tokens. And the other thing is you can't actually trust a burnt token. This is what people don't seem to understand. There are ways of actually doing a script to opt false or whatever else that would be a valid burn token, but no one does that. They do it to a vanity address or something. Now, the idea is this is too hard for us to ever generate, so therefore it must not be generated and it must be fake. But that's actually incorrect. That's taking probability the wrong way around. See, the thing is, you can generate long words, and there are some out there, if you don't care what word you're generating. See, it's a combinatorics problem. And if you're saying, I want a word that says Bitcoin is X, then that's difficult to generate. But if you want to say, I want any combination with these letters in it, that's very simple. There are hundreds of billions of possible word combinations. So the actual vanity mining becomes simpler. So the reality is, if you're actually doing these things, there's no way of knowing that someone hasn't actually created a vanity address that has a public private key pair associated. Even if there's a provable sort of issue where there's, you can actually do a signature without a key. So you can actually grind through and find sort of signature matches where there's provably no private key. So there are known things for that. So you can actually set up a transaction and grind a vanity address that matches that, even though there's provably no private key that matches on the slope. All sorts of little things like this. So you can't say we're burning Bitcoin and therefore you can trust us. the thing is, they're saying that because we're burning Bitcoin, you can sort of see that it's backed, but it's not. Backed means that there's something there, not that you've burnt the Bitcoin. Even if you provably burnt Bitcoin, so what? That just makes it more valuable for everyone else. What you have actually done is you've thrown away your Bitcoin at the worst case and given it to everyone else, but you haven't really burnt your Bitcoin. Now, the error in that sort of thinking is to back something, for instance, a gold-backed or an asset-backed something, has something that you can always take back. If you back something with gold, you're putting it into escrow so that if you do wrong, you don't get that gold back. That's what backing actually is. Yeah. So it's been misleading people in some of these things. If you want to back something with gold, then you actually give over to an escrow agent your gold. So if you want to back something with Bitcoin, you have to hand your Bitcoin over to a multi-sig where the escrow agent can give it back to you at the end of some, like, my passport's expired, here's my sort of deposit money back. Or I cheat and do something and the escrow agent makes me lose it. I've got something at stake. So that's the lie any of these sort of burn tokens don't tell you. They've actually taken away the stake. So either they've lied about the fact that they can, or there's nothing at stake. And either way, it doesn't matter anymore. The so-called premise is all flawed.
Yeah, I think the only reason they're doing it, they're just sending Bitcoin to their own address and then issuing these worthless wormhole tokens or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Again, you don't know that they don't have a key.
Yeah.
You have to trust them to say, we did some magic and we can never spend this.
And you said, secondly, maybe some attacker can even move them. So that's even like, even they might not own them. So
yeah. So there's all sorts of things you need to start trusting. You need to trust the magic. So when you have a burn token, you need to trust the magic.
I don't trust them.
So I would rather, if I was talking about a sort of obligation, like a backed token, I think a 2 of 3 escrow would be much better, or even a 3 of 3 or something where I have one of the keys and I know whether something moves. I would trust that far more, but that's not what people do.
So in the Bitcoin in the future, there'll be ways if someone breaks a contract to like kind of release that key and let the other person get back their money, for example, from a multi-sig.
I mean, there are even ways that can be done off-chain. If you remember the Sony ECDSA attack, if we have a signature and then an alternate signature, and we use 2 versions of K that are deterministic or even the same, we can have one hidden signature and then another, and the release of the second signature actually means that you can calculate the private key.
Okay, cool.
There are ways of doing these things. You can have it so that we both sign. You and I each sign, right? And we have more than that at stake. It can be a 2 of 2 thing, but we sign twice. Now, what it can be is I sign with one I hold, and you don't know what it is, but I have your signature, so I've got a complete thing, and you do as well. And if I ever spend, there's extra money in each of our pools that we can't get to. But once I release my signature, you now have the ability to do the same as the Sony hack and steal all my Bitcoin or take them legally if you have the contract saying it. Because if you read up how the Sony hack worked, we signed 2 transactions. I give you one saying in the future you can do X, right? And I have something where I have to sign with a certain value of K, which is provable because I can actually use the value R in a signature. So I can actually, there are ways of doing this that I can sign and use the thing and provably show that I've signed. with a certain value of K, not give you the S, etc. I won't go into all the details here, but it means that if I spend, you now can access my private key. The 2 of 2, you can take all the money.
Yeah.
I can take the little bit of a transaction and you can run off with the rest.
Isn't it kind of like the system that Lightning tried to adopt, like this punishment system where if someone, cheats or like posts the wrong state, then you take all their money, except they're doing it on protocol that's not secure, basically. I mean, you could do the same thing on Bitcoin.
Yes, except I'll never do it on Lightning because moo-ha-ha-ha, evil patents.
Yeah. So also about patents, like you hold a lot of patents. So what is your goal? Like, are you gonna use them for different kind of tech companies that will use them, license them out, or like?
Our goal is basically to build Bitcoin. And when I say Bitcoin, I mean Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin is cash. BTC is no longer Bitcoin. So my goal is quite simple. It is to build and guide Bitcoin in the base original system. People like that or not. If they don't like it, I don't really care. Bitcoin was set in stone, version 0.1, and I'm going to make sure I do all I can to lock that in. Now, in the next 5 years, it's going to be very interesting. Everyone seems to think next 6 months. I don't really care. The next 5 years matter. After that, between 5 and 10 years is where it gets interesting. But won't go there for now with things that are coming down the road. But right now, what it enables is getting people to focus on building real applications that actually bring user adoption. And an unstable protocol does not help that. A stable protocol does.
Yeah, stable and simple, and then build like good, simple apps on top that people can use. So
what we've said is very simple. People go, is it, if there's a fork, is it X, Y, Z? Bitcoin is version 0.1, the original opcodes, the original no cap, the original any scale type system, the one that can't be patented.
Yeah, so that one is Bitcoin. Everything else is basically altcoin because they're adding a lot of random stuff in there.
You change it to be 1 minute, it's not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You add DataSig verify, it's not Bitcoin. So that simple. You don't like that, then go out there and patent a whole lot of things and lock the protocol, you invent things, whatever else, and you can say, we thought of it too, well, I thought of it first. That's the fun thing with patenting. So I've filed, today I lodged paper number 830, so you've got a lot of catching up to do.
I can't read all that. Yeah, and also about the hashing algorithm, like, is there a time when we would need to change, like for security reasons?
There will always be a time when we need to change. Nothing is perfectly secure. In an ideal world, we lose 1 bit every 18 months or so. So 100 times that, so 150 years from now, definitively, I can tell you that any of the SHA-256 type algorithms will be absolutely shite. But no algorithm in reality lasts that long. So do we know if there'll be collision states and whatever else found in SHA before then? Can't answer. ECDSA, I can't answer. It's possible, but who knows?
And so within the next 5 years, how do you see adoption of Bitcoin Cash?
Well, we need to start pushing adoption fast because in 2 years' time we have a halving, and then another one will come after that. Now, miners are going to react differently than they did with the whole digital gold jumping on board bit 2 years ago. That's not going to happen again. This Ponzi dump that we've seen in the past where the price goes up, that's over. I'm sorry. Miners aren't going to suddenly have a pump And you'll find some of the things that have helped that, like Tether, and the next year are in for a world of pain. And by world of pain, I mean unbelievable.
Yeah, it's about time, though. They were running loose everywhere over the last year. Yeah.
Yes.
So we need...
And they think they're above the law because they're international. I'm sorry, but if you just saw the ICO bit where they're sitting there going, we're in Switzerland, therefore the Americans can't touch us, the judge rightly said, you have servers and users and people and transactions in the US, therefore you're under US law. Boom.
Yeah, that's how the US taxes everything. Why are they even surprised? Why they even try? Like
under US long arm provisions, if you take a US dollar ever, you're covered under US law. Tether, USDT takes US dollars. The end.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
not whether I believe in state or not. I'm sort of objectivist. I'm very small government and all the rest, but I still believe, like Mises, that a government is needed. Just it should be small.
Yeah, minarchist. Yay. Fellow minarchist.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter even whether you like that or not. We're in a real world. So the real world comes first.
Yeah, I always remind that to the anarchists on Twitter, but then they go into their dream scenario where there's no government. Everything should be like this. There's no patents and blah, blah, blah. And
yes, I mean, always amazes me, these people who like to say how they're libertarian and whatever else. The only real thing ever created is a product of the human mind. Land is a product of the human mind. We put our effort and we direct our mind into making something that is raw forest into productive agricultural land. That doesn't just happen. So people have got to start accepting this.
Yeah. And like land and all property is kind of also a social agreement. Like you shouldn't take my stuff, but my stuff is defined by the social agreement, which is like protected by law. So if we don't have a law, then you would basically just be cavemen, just like beating people up and just taking their stuff, which was how it used to be.
Anarchy just ends up being might is right.
Yeah.
Feudalism happened because of anarchy. The fall of the Roman Empire led to a few people who will rob the barons and whatever else, either taking or sort of trading sort of fear and other things to build a wall and keep people in it. That's what anarchy leads to.
Yeah, they use their money and power to get control over people.
Exactly. Which is what many of them want.
So weird. Like, I don't know why.
It's hypocrisy. They want one thing and they say another. So they tell you to get you sort of on board. But the reality is what they actually want is they want to control.
And the reality is if we protect the Bitcoin protocol like the 0.1, then Bitcoin is for everyone. It's not like only anarchists or only this person or that. It's like everyone can use it.
Exactly. Everyone should use it.
Yes. We need to get everyone using it because block happening is coming. So.
Exactly. And here's the next thing. I mean, you keep hearing all these people calling everyone who has one idea sheep or sheeple. These people are basically using propaganda, which is a typical socialist idea. In 1984, Animal Farm. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have people who say, I'm anarchist. Listen to me. If you're not, you're stupid. Guess what? If you are doing that, you are basically, no ifs, no buts, no maybes, trying to control people.
Definitely. And the people who go on about, oh, if you listen to Craig, you're like in a cult or something, then they just don't want people to have freedom, and they want to control that, okay, I'm
Right.
gonna say that this person is stupid, and if you associate with them, then you're stupid too, and I'm gonna scare you and try to make you not. And it's so stupid that you're like, why do you even try this? Of course, might be someone who gets scared, but like we're smart enough to know that this is just like insanely stupid to try to just smear someone and scare them out of like talking to or listening to someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree totally.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, Craig. It was really nice talking to you.
No, I enjoyed
And
catching you.
yeah, I hope we can talk again sometime.
Sure.
Thank you for your time. See you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.